Hi, today I'm going to do an updated favourite brushes film because I made a film about my brushes about 4 years ago and lots of people have been requesting an updated version. So here we go. I'm going to start with face brushes. I use different ones. You've seen them in my videos anyway. I like 3 different styles really. I like a kind of flat synthetic brush or more of a buffing brush. Sometimes I use both. The size of the brush depends on the size of the face. So I know this sounds really obvious, but if you've got someone with a very small face, then you won't want a gigantic buffing brush. So when I'm first laying down the colour, I'll use more of a sort of classic flat brush like this. And it depends again how much product I want to get on. A thin one, which is the Lancôme one, is really good if you're putting on quite a thin layer, maybe even on a small face. And the thicker ones, maybe more like this Chanel one, are good because you can soak up just more product because they're much fatter in the width. And then to buff, the small ZOEVA one is great for a small face or more for the small areas, so buffing around the nose, maybe under the eyes. Whereas the larger flat top Kabuki, this is by Sigma, is fantastic just for really smoothing over everything, just getting rid of all those edges, particularly if you're kind of, really trying to blend around that jawline. So I kind of have all of these in my kit, and I will usually use at least sort of 2 of them on each client. The shapes of brushes that I like for highlighting and contouring are more of this type of brush. So this is by Tom Ford, and I love this for liquid highlighting, cream highlighting, and also maybe for a cream contour when I'm kind of first putting the colour on. Although I will usually end up buffing it anyway with one of my foundation brushes. So I'll kind of lay the colour on or lay the highlighter or contour on with this, particularly if it's a cream product. If I'm doing more of a contour with powder, then I like this type of brush. So this is a Charlotte Tilbury and another ZOEVA. And these are quite small, but they're very sort of tapered and they're almost quite pointy on the end. So these are great for kind of just buffing in and just adding that colour. And I use both of those in my kit regularly. For concealing, I will use different brushes, again, depending on the area of the face. So for a someone with a large face and I'm doing under the eyes, then this type of brush, so it's quite a large flat synthetic brush, would be really good for under the eyes. A smaller one for a smaller face is this one by Lancôme, and this would be great just for patting in colour or maybe around sort of shadowy areas. If I want more product, I'll use a similar shape but something that's a bit thicker, like this one by Sigma. And then if I'm pinpoint concealing, I'm more likely to use something like an eyeliner brush, like this one. This is the Fine Eyeliner by Chanel, and this is great just for really kind of honing in on the little sort of small blemishes. Or I like using brushes from art shops, so a mixture of different shapes you can get, and these are great because they're obviously for really detailed painting, and these are really good and also very cheap as well. They're only about £2 each. So they're my favourite brushes for concealing. When it comes to powdering, I like brushes which are really quite small. I really hate the very big sort of huge powder brushes that you see that kind of cover the whole face, usually because I like to decide where I want the powder to be and where I don't want it to be, and also I like to build up in different areas more than others. So I'm more likely to use something like a large soft eyeshadow blending brush. This is the large eyeshadow brush by Suqqu, or a brush which is really meant for blush, which is this, again, my favorite brush for cheeks and blusher is the Suqqu cheek brush. And I use this a lot for powdering because, again, I can kind of really focus on the areas I want it to be. And this one is just great for little bits of sort of really exact powdering. So for eyeshadow, I often use, when I'm first laying down the colour on the eye, so using sort of a stronger colour, more of a flat brush. So these concealer brushes actually would have a double purpose, because if I wasn't using them for concealer, I would use them to lay down colour, either maybe by dampening them slightly if I wanted to really get a lot of intensity with the eyeshadow powder, or they would also be good for applying more of a cream eyeshadow, particularly if you're putting a base down of cream. Same with this bigger flat brush by Paula Dorf. This is the Wet and Dry Eye Colour brush. And this is great, particularly for a large eyelid where you really wanted to lay down a lot of vibrant or intense colour. Once you do more of the sculpting and the shading, then I would move to something like a 217 classic. And this is good for most sort of eye shapes, really good for doing creases and buffing creases. That's a one that I've had for a few years, because I actually like them when they've been washed a lot and they get quite pointy. This is more of a new one. This is quite fluffy, but I always use them on everyone, and I think they're great. Another one which is similar is the ZOEVA brush. This is their version of a 217, but they also do a small version, which is quite nice if you've got quite a small eyelid area and maybe you want to be quite precise with where that crease is going. So this is like a sort of miniature 217, which I always think is quite useful. And then once it gets to sort of more of a buffing brush, so once you're kind of starting to really blend the colour, I like this type of brush, so quite a fluffy big brush. I love this one by Hakuhodo. This is just really big and fluffy, and it's great for sort of really buffing away all the colour. Particularly good if you've got sort of a larger eyelid, because it's nice and big and fluid. The classic sheer crease brush, which Paula Dorf, I think I've used it in every single video I've ever made. This one is not always available. I'm not sure why. I think it got discontinued and then came back, and now it doesn't seem to be available again on the website. I usually buy them on Amazon, and I've been lucky that they've been fine. So I have a lot of these in my kit, and I just love them for kind of blending and buffing away. Also like the Ray Morris brush. This is a really nice, soft, kind of very, very tapered, more of a pointy blending brush. So quite nice if you want to keep still a little bit of definition with that socket line, or you're getting more of a crease in there, but you want to soften that crease. So I use that a lot. When I'm buffing shadow or applying shadow underneath the eyes, I like something like either more of a pencil-y brush, so something that's quite compact and a little bit pointy, and that is a ZOEVA one, or I love these two by Suqqu. This is the eyeshadow brush M and the S. Now the S one I think has been discontinued, which is just a travesty, because it's the best brush ever for really kind of smudging shadow along those lower lashes, and I have a few of these left, but I really hope that they bring that brush back. And then again, the larger one, if you wanted more of a soft smoky hue under there, is really good if you want to really kind of smoke the eyes out. So for eyeliner, whether it be liquid, and I'm kind of using it with I'm using my own brush but applying liquid liner, or more of a gel liner, I like brushes which are quite obviously small but not tiny. I like them when they're kind of tapered at the end, a little bit square going up and then tapered. So something like this number 4 brush from Stila I really like. I also like, there's some brushes from Charles Fox, which is a sort of stage makeup shop in London that I like, and similar to that are these brushes that I get from the craft shop. So these are craft and art brushes, which are only £2 each, and I think it's a really good tip actually to go to your local art shop and look for brushes for eyeliner, because they're just as good as anything else that you can buy, and they're usually much cheaper, and they tend to have really good shape, so they're very sort of like tapered and small and just perfect for eyeliner. Now for blush, I only ever use the cheek brush by Suqqu. It's my favourite brush. I use it on everyone. I've used it for years and years and years, and I just don't actually own any other brushes for cheeks, and I just find this is foolproof and fantastic for applying blusher. The brush that I mainly use for doing powder eyebrow is this one by Suqqu. It's a really stiff brush. I can turn it on its side and kind of do individual hairs almost. or I can do it flat if I want to make more of a shape or fill in, and I've used it for years, and that's just my favorite brush. But anything like this that's really stiff and angled is very, very good for eyebrows, for applying powder eyebrow, I should say. To brush through the eyebrows and lashes, then any kind of spoolie like this is perfect, but you don't need any particular brand. I've got a Chanel one, but you could use an old mascara one that you just wash, or you could just buy any brand of these because they're all pretty much the same, but they're great to have in your kit for brushing through eyebrows, brushing through lashes, separating lashes. I also sometimes use a metal comb as well, which is really good if you want to properly separate your eyelashes, and again they're available from lots and lots of different brands. For lipstick in my kit, my Dream Lip brush actually was discontinued. It was an old Bobbi Brown one, and it was my favourite, and I've been sort of searching for something else that I like. At the moment I'm using either the Hakuhodo concealer brush, because it's quite sort of tapered, and I like them with more of a softened round edge when I'm applying sort of a pointy but rounded edge. These ones are good for a fuller lip shape. And then I also sometimes use the retractable brushes, which are a great shape, either by Sigma or by MAC. They are a good shape, particularly for someone with a smaller lip shape. So that's it. That's just some of my favourite brushes that I make sure I always take on jobs with me, particularly at the moment. These are my updated favourites. I have hundreds and hundreds of brushes, so don't feel that you need this many brushes in your personal makeup kit. I sometimes do jobs with 8 or 10 models, so I'm constantly buying and trying out new brushes, and also buying more and more of these particular brushes. So I'm always adding to my kit, and we have a massive bag of brushes. But these are ones that I'm currently really enjoying. Some I've had in my kit for 15 years, and some I've recently discovered. So I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you soon.